So, good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to this first webinar of the year from Solar Energy. And at the outset, I would like to acknowledge and thank Goodwe India for this support in making this possible. For the webinar today, we have a very interesting list of panelists. We have people who've got a huge amount of experience in the industry, and we're talking about people who've literally put projects, who've been involved with project making, and they have literally seen the solar industry in India evolve in the last few years. I will start with in terms of seniority, we'll start with Colonel Narendra Verma, who, of course, after spending 23 years in the army, a very distinguished career, he moved on to the corporate world. And Colonel Verma has worked with companies as varied as IBM, Enercom, and he's currently the CEO at CleanMax Solar, which is a very big name in the CNI sector. And to his credit, of course, he's also been involved personally in almost 15 gigawatt worth of onshore wind. And now, of course, he has a new perspective on solar as CleanMax pushes harder into that space. Following Colonel Verma, of course, we have Vinay Pabba. Vinay is a very well known now in the industry, not just because Vinay has simply been there for a long time, but also because he's been very frank in terms of sharing his views on policy issues and other matters, which has been a huge learning for people like us in the media also. It's always great to have your perspective, Vinay. So Vinay, of course, is from IIT Chennai and XLRI. He's done his MBA from there. And while currently the CEO at Vibrant Energy, he's been involved with some of the biggest names in the sector, right from the Greenco Group to O2 Power and more. So welcome, Vinay, to this seminar today. We have just joining us Subramaniam Pulipaka. Subramaniam, of course, is I think everybody knows him beyond solar also, simply because he's right up there in the National Solar Energy Federation of India, is the CEO. And Subbu, to a lot of people may not know, I think I got to know a little bit later. He's one of the youngest researchers from India in the solar space. And really, he's really doing a lot of things which will, I'm sure, make not just him, but a lot of us very proud in the years to come. Finally, we have the youngest in our panel today, Aniket. Aniket Sawant is from Goodwe, India. Aniket has been in the sector for a while now. Aniket has worked previously he's actually a hardcore power electronics guy, I guess, with experience in TBA as well as Huawei Technologies, and now with Goodwe India. And of course, being involved with sales as a regional sales manager and the key accounts head, Aniket has been able to see up very close what's happening in the sector, what clients expect, and how the industry is evolving. So, a very warm welcome to all of you once again. Uh, just to tell you why we tried to start a little early was because Vinay had a lot of very urgent train to catch, I guess. So, Vinay, I'm going to throw this first question at you straight away as we kick off, which was about how, even though today we are at about 65 gigawatts or 64 gigawatts in terms of overall solar capacity in India, when we look at the longer term picture in India, uh, like I said, almost 75 to 80% of solar capacity we'll have by 2030 is yet to be built. It's not even been started yet. So, looking at this next huge steps that we are going to take at a broad level, what is it that you expect to be different for the next part of the journey, the next 80%, so to say? How do you see that changing for India?
Thank you, Prasanna. Happy to be here. Happy to be invited and be part of this August panel. Huge respect for Subbu, Kalal Verma, and Aniket, who are doing human work in the sector. I think one of the key things that holds the answer to your question is the demand side of the power sector in India. So we've been traditionally used to the Hindu rate of power growth, as we have called it. It has always been 4 to 5%. Now, that has gone up to almost it's touching 8% and shows every sign of crossing 8% year on year going forward. Now, numbers are fail to paint the full picture. At this 8% growth between now and 2030, India will need to add a power system that is equal to the size of Europe. That's the kind of huge demand growth that we are seeing here. And frankly, coal cannot meet that. And the coal additions and installs that we have been seeing have dropped steadily from a peak of about 10 gigawatts to 12 gigawatts every year happening 4 to 5 years back. They have dropped to below 2 gigawatt mark. Now, forget about the existing demand that you have. Even to meet the incremental demand that we are having, we need to do, if you have to meet that entirely with the combination of solar and wind, the numbers are at least 5 to 6 times the yearly installs that we have been seeing in the solar and wind sector so far. So if you look at the current year, solar would be doing about 13, 11 to 12 gigawatts, and wind will be very abysmal number of about 1.3 to 1.4 gigawatts. From here, we're talking about scaling up to at least 4x to 5x these kind of numbers.
This
We
kind of
need to be
numbers.
able to do.
We need to be able to
We
do.
need to be able to do.
We need to.
We need to be able to do 35 to 40 gigawatts of solar every year, and probably half of that, half of wind every year. And that is the challenge we are looking at if we have to meet even the
Sure.
incremental demand growth. Uh, I'm not even talking about the substitution of existing coal with wind and solar, and that's the challenge that we have today.
Sure. So from a perspective of what would change in the next 80%, are we talking about a bigger share for wind, more storage? Is that what you're saying?
See, I don't think we have a big options, too many options on the table there, Prasanna. The thing is, uh, and Subbu will probably back me up on that. To meet this kind of a growth and to meet our commitments which we have made in the Paris Climate Accord and recently in Glasgow, uh, actually, those targets are pretty easy to meet. 50% installed capacity by 2030. We're already at 42%. So the INDC targets and the Glasgow targets can very easily be met even with the current business as usual kind of approach. But if you have to really meet the existing power sector demand that is growing at this kind of humongous rate, we have to completely uh, look at scaling this yearly installs by 4x or 5x. That's the challenge that we have here, and we'll be very closely watched whether it is the government or whether it's the industry on whether we can actually meet this. Otherwise, we have a fairly serious problem coming up in not actually meeting the incremental demand. And we are seeing it happen. Section 11 imports being ramped up. That's not what we want to really see as a panic
Right, we just
reaction.
saw that.
And
Right.
unless we really get things under control, I see a kind of a fairly dismal scenario shaping up in future.
Great. Colonel Verma, what would be your views on this?
So thank you, Mr. Prasanna. And firstly, let me thank you and for giving us this platform and to my fellow panelists. It's a matter of privilege for me to be sharing stage with them. I think Vinay has very rightly painted the future scenario. So I think if we go by what's happening today, surely it's not giving us a very good, a confident situation. If we continue with this rate, surely we are moving towards a disastrous situation. But I'm very confident and optimistic that ultimately it is the demand that will pull things together. Today, maybe the policymakers and the various government agencies and the regulators may be in a situation that it's probably the situation isn't become a panic situation, but it's really going to become a panic situation very quickly. And I think all these uh, restrictions and the conflicts that what we have between what the central government wants to do and what the state governments wants to do and what the discoms actually want to do probably will get ironed out, not because they want it, but that they have no choice. Because finally, as a country, we have a target which we have committed across the globe that surely has to be met. And second thing is the real demand gap. But I think as an industry, we need to understand that pure solar and wind as such will not fit into the gap because it's really still not fully dispatchable. And we will have to bundle it with other technologies to fill in that gap. And the round the clock
Sure.
technologies that are coming in, whether you bundle it with brown power or you bundle it with other powers, and surely the battery storage is a little away. It's not fitting into the economics. But I'm sure the investment, like we've been hearing, Greenco investing huge amounts of billions of dollars into
Right.
storage-based systems, which are, I think, easy to install. They are available and provides other benefits, and they are more greener. Probably, surely is going to see the light of the day. And we also need to understand that when we talk of green power, it is just not solar utility scale systems. Wind surely will play a major role there because it's the hybridization that provides you better value for money. But I think when we talk of solar, let's not talk of PV solar. I think the other technologies and the platforms like the CSP today might not be cost effective, but surely it is going to become cost effective. From a point of view, if you start comparing the technology with uh, maybe gas, because actually it's not an equivalent of PV, to be very frank, because that's a purely the full dispatchable power, and you can't compare it with PV, which is a very which provides a power only on a small
Sure.
stuff. And also, if you look at the
Right.
rooftop part of it, while we have made good stride onto the ground mount utility systems, which is almost 85% of the total solar that what we have installed, the rooftop is still just 8%, and the utilization across the
Right.
whole country has been is quite minimal for many reasons. Many states took the initial strides, allowed those net metering things to happen, subsidies came in, and then again it kind of died down for multiple reasons. Again, understand the problems that comes have, and the other complications that what it is. I think so. We need to make a good stride into all the regions of PV of the energy renewable energy mix, including heating and cooling, which is not an electricity based system. It just
Okay.
the water heating
Sure.
itself and the air heating and cooling system itself provide you an enough amount, good enough of energy, is what I would say.
Subbu, you've been close to the policymakers, so to say. You've been involved in trying to fashion policy. Do you see a change in terms of what was done in the last 6 years versus the next few years, mindset wise?
Yeah, I mean, building upon what Vinay ji and Narendra ji mentioned, so far, if you look at us and our utility scale installation, which is approximately around 55 as of last month, gigawatt, uh, there was we developed those projects in the trajectory of our country when we just started in adding installations.
Sure.
The second phase, which I would still say has started since 2020, 2021, is our growth phase. And that growth phase generally accompanies with itself an accelerated installations, which if you look at the pipeline as of today, I see almost 62.5 gigawatt of solar projects in pipeline. Why they are not getting commissioned, what is the delay and all, those are, I mean, all of us know many reasons that are there. But the 62.5 gigawatt is in pipeline. But when we look closely at the pipeline, that is where you can clearly see the message on how we are going to go with the utility scale in this decade. Uh, Almost 25% of it is this pipeline of solar is in either hybrid or in peak power or in a RTC kind of installations. So that is one clear message that is sort of given to all of us that the future is completely with the firm dispatchable power plants instead of a plain vanilla solar plants. I think that is one big major trend you will see. You must have seen last 2 3 tenders of SECI MSEDCL's tender that concluded last year. Again, after 2020, this is the second peak power tender I've seen. On a apples to apples comparison, I should say even though the tariff looks higher here, this is more lucrative than my 2020 peak power tender of 1.2 gigawatt. So I see this trend catching on. Honorable Minister also in our recent interaction has told very clearly. Vinay, you was mentioning about our Section 11 invoking and then how our power demand is growing at a much faster rate thanks to the various number of factors. So while it is not wise to look at imported coal only for those 2 3 months, the message is very clear that they want this solar wind hybrid projects. They want solar wind plus storage projects. They want round the clock power projects. They want peak power projects. There was one point of time an idea of RE plus thermal kind of a thing where more CUF was coming from RE. So I see a trend of that picking up very very quickly. The second aspect I'll see in terms of the utility scale is states playing more active role than the renewable energy implementing agencies. I the last 1.5 year, 35 odd gigawatt must have been tendered total RE. Uh, the percentage of tenders coming from states has increased year on year by a figure that has not been seen in the last 10 years of our renewable journey. That means now states have built appetite for such plants. They know what they want, they know how they want it, they know where they want it, and when they want it. So this is in one way de-risking the kind of structure that we had before, which prompted more REIAs to come like NTPC, NHPC, SECI and all. And the second thing is that my off-taker related risks also are trying to come down. So that I would say is a very fair guess on how the trends are picking up. The third one, in fact, which just as we are talking, I received a mail from the ministry. I think there would also be maybe, and this is from the discussions that we are seeing, that the PPA tenure also might be revisited by the government entities, and
Yeah.
maybe we might become a truly market driven exchange with the available power in the pool coming from the existing plants also. So that
Right.
means you don't necessarily set up a utility scale plant because you have PPA, but you set up a utility scale plant which will sell to which and C&I and open access level. It is happening in different ways already. But I think
Sure.
I'll see more and more plants coming into the exchange business very soon. Vinay ji mentioned, and I fully
Okay.
agree with him 100%. For us to achieve our Glasgow targets, COP27 commitments, climate commitments, COP21, all these things are very easy. As a country, we are a subcontinent, our demand just increases. For us to actually feed our own people with our own indigenous renewable energy requires more upscale of installations than what we actually target. So, for example, if you ask me 280 gigawatt is okay by 2030, I would say no. Even if we can go by 400, 420, that will still be less. The 125 of hydrogen component also got added. So, overall, actual solar
Sure.
addition, if you look at it, will cross 400 by 2030. Should cross ideally. So, I think these are the three trends I am looking at. One on good ones, second on the states getting more prominent role. Third, on the market-driven plans coming up, just like how it is in US, how it is in Australia. Now I'm seeing an uptick of trend in Germany in the ground-mounted utility scale. I think we'll become much more mature market than these were in terms of the way power is accessed by exchanges when solar is the generation source. These are the three trends
Okay.
I am personally looking
Great. So those look really interesting. In fact, I think you covered a couple of the points we've put down for later. Aniket, just a quick one for you. You actually been trying to, in many ways, people underestimate, I think, the amount of evangelization that's still required when you try and go and sell solar. Maybe today it's easier as compared to 5 years back when you were doing it earlier. How have you seen that attitude change, and does that make you optimistic about the next coming decade in terms of how easy it's going to be to sell solar to your clients?
Yes, first of all, would like to thank to giving me the opportunity to share the panelist chair along with the respected
Sure.
So, as highlighted by Vinay sir and Subbu sir, we are mainly talking about the three main things. That one is the target of 2030, and then there is the increasing demand, and third one is the challenge which we are facing. So now, as if I'm not wrong, what you are expecting from me to understand from the sales point of view, what are the challenge we have faced, or how easy now compared to the previous one? So if
Yes.
we talk about from the sales point of view, last year we have done, these are the numbers, almost 14 gigawatt of installation, uh, including solar, CNI, rooftop, and distributed. And this year we are expecting it should be scale around 20 gigawatt plus minimum based on the recent changes and expectations from the authority which we have received. And if we compare the target set by for 2020, it should, as highlighted by Vinay sir, it should be in the range of 30 to 40 gigawatt. So still we are lagging around a 10 to 15 gigawatt even after this year end, and we left with 8 years to with the target. And additionally, as highlighted by Subbu sir, even if we fill this 10 gigawatt, 15 gigawatt, still we will have to fulfill the demand of our own country. So there is a huge potential and the huge market. So from sales point of view, I feel I am at correct position in and the correct market to pitch the product and to fulfill the demand of the market. But only thing is that the challenges which we are facing right now and the over the last 1 or 2 years, I hope we all know that there is a global shortage of the semiconductor point of view, because of which some rates ups downs are going on, and this may affect some way indirectly directly to our targets, so we have to consider this part also. And I'm very much sure the authorities and the decision makers who are driving the policy are well aware of this challenge, and they are come up every interval of time, they are come up with such a plan that this target will be look more easy and they will increase our target. So I'm very much positive that even though at present we are facing some challenge, but if we look out our past history from 2016, if we look at 2016, even whatever we have achieved, it's like a dream at that time. So we have to reach to target of 2030. It may not be a dream, it look very sustainable, but we have to go at par. And personally, if we have seen the journey, I'm very much positive that our authority will come up with a more sustainable planning, and we will surpass the target with that thing. So personally, from the sales point of view, I see the market is very opportunistic and it's having a huge potential from that point of view.
Okay. So I think what you're trying to say is, I am very optimistic about selling, but please don't increase my targets right
Yes.
now because there are other issues affecting it. Maybe for later. We'll save it for later.
No, no.
Great.
Even though issues are there, I
Another
have full
since you
faith on the
mentioned,
management.
you spoke about. Okay, no, don't worry about that. Okay, moving on to our next issue here. We have all seen how technologies have changed. Now we're beginning to see projects which were put up in 2015, 2014. They are probably at an efficiency level of 12%, 13%, even lower in some cases, as we've seen. Whereas today, maybe the average project is maybe at a 20, 22% efficiency level and higher. So some of it is better modules, better inverters. A lot of things are changing. So going ahead, I mean, looking at the technologies that you've been seeing or you've been pitched to Vinay or Colonel Verma, what are the big ones that you think over the next few years, what will change? And what do we do? Is there something we will have to do about these older projects, pre-2015 projects?
Can I take that first,
Yeah,
Kallan?
please.
Yeah.
Yes. Vinay, please do that.
Prasanna, a good point, but I'd like to flip it around. I think the technological advances on panels are actually headed towards lower efficiencies. Okay. I am specifically referring to
Okay.
perovskites. Perovskites, which as a class of panels, are much less efficient than your traditional silicon or thin film, but comes at a very, very cheap price. So I think that's the next breakthrough, which is going to fundamentally change the technology landscape in a very fundamental way. So you're going to have much cheaper panels, but at a much lesser efficiency. And in the cost and efficiency trade-off, it will still make it sense to go for perovskites with a much lesser LCOE. It has implications
Okay.
for land use, which are it requires more land to get the same power out. But I think I'll place my bets on perovskites. I mean, I'll pause there. I'll hand it over to Colonel Verma to comment.
Okay. That's a big call, Colonel Verma.
So I think without really getting specific into a particular technology, because technology will keep improving, you will keep getting better panels, more efficient panels as we go along. I think the basic rule, the Moore's law, which applied to semiconductors and the microcontrollers, would apply to this also. We are already seeing this. When we started the solar stuff, we were having PPS of 15, 16 rupees, and now you can see the PPS that you're getting because things have become more efficient. And but yes, it's a law of diminishing return. At the end of the day, you reach a stage where the additional investment required to do it. I think what is more important, and I think Mr. Prasanna, you highlighted that fact of the older plants which are at lower efficiency. I think what the capex is one aspect of the whole thing. The more important is how you able to extract maximum juice from the system over its lifetime and ensures that those assets are actually able to perform for the 25 years, 30 years, whatever is the business case of that particular thing. I think that's more important. And I would say one of the transformative technology, which we're already seeing coming in, and I'm sure it's going to play a major role, is artificial intelligence. The data analytics that is required to collect the amount of data and then and help the operators and the asset owners to fine tune their system, having the predictive maintenance that is required, is really what is going to be important. It's already there in some form or the other, but I'm sure as we learn, as we improve on it, that's something which will be very important to do. This is in addition to the efficiencies that what we will improve for the various stuff, and the innovative things like bifacial and use and technologies which use lesser land. I think those things are going to be continuously be
Of course.
upgraded.
Yes.
The building integrated systems are going to be continuously there, the floating systems are going to be there, and I think
Right.
those innovations will continue to come in. But I think one area that I feel is most important is artificial intelligence and its integration into the system.
Okay. Subbu, we've also seen you speak a lot about agrivoltaics recently, besides other changes. So just let's have your take on this.
Yeah, I mean, couple of days ago, we completed our final pre-consultation or pre-launch consultation of Agri Photovoltaic Alliance for India.
Right.
I personally see, I mean, though I strongly believe India is a land of opportunities, we will still have a lot of land conflicts for our utility scale in the coming days.
Of course.
Land use ratio and co-locating renewables in agriculture. I mean, improving land use ratio is the only option, and co-locating renewables with agriculture is the direct solution in front of us. I've also seen some of developers who had arid land accessible to them. They installed solar and then they started cultivation below the panels. That is a
Wow.
PV agro instead of agri PV.
Sure.
I think that model
Hmm.
is definitely going to pick up its pace. The ministry also formed a committee now. We are part of the committee. You will soon see some specific guidelines and policy measures for agrivoltaics also. So that will become an incentive for developers to carry out agriculture related activities in their arid land where they install. I think that is a trend which is slowly gaining up pace.
Okay. I hope that happens because, considering how underperformance we have seen in PM Kusum, for example, I think that's much needed to relook the whole agri space in terms of solar
But
integration
in
there.
on the other,
Aniket, what do you think?
underperformance is one side. On the other hand, if you look at it, as a country, we have three challenges in front of us. One challenge is that we have to fight the effects of climate change. Second one is
Sure.
agriculture is itself is a direct is getting direct impacted by climate change and also has a lot
Impacted.
of causes that are there. Third one is that the farmers who are or the marginalized communities who are supposed to get benefited from either agriculture or renewables are not able to get that benefit passed on to them. So I think all the three of them can be solved with agri renewables. And as a country
Amen.
whose population is growing steadily and our agriculture area is shrinking every year, so for us to use renewables as a facade to increase our agriculture would be the best possible solution ever.
Under stress all the time, yes. Yeah. Great. Aniket, what's your big expectation? What is it that you wish you had, or you think we are very close to having technology wise next level?
See, from if we talk about the technology wise, even if we see the journey over the past 5 years from 2016, we have already accepted a new technology. Like I share you the one example before 2016. I'm just talking about the ground engineering work. There was a solar project where we were working out a 1,000 volt system, and even across out of India, in our neighboring
Right.
countries, even in the Europe, everyone was using 1,000 volt system, and India was the first one who has demanded our supplier to come up with a 1,500 volt system to optimize the cost, to optimize the BOS cost, and later we see that within a year, utility project has been replaced from 1,000 volt to 1,500 volt system, and all the manufacturers had forcefully manufactured their product and accepted out this technology with the 1,500 volt. And even we are exporting majority of the products from the China. They were not using 1,500 volt system till 2017. and within 2017-18, all our utility market has been shifted to 1500 volt. So whenever there is a high target, I personally feel that considering the 2020-30 demand, high target, high pressure, is always there is a scope of the upgradation, and always there is a technology which is always subject to modification and upgradation. So this, whenever we talk about the target, it is an opportunity for a technology driven
Okay.
organization or a country to upgrade the technology to fulfill the demand. So even if we talk about my product, that is an inverter, no one has ever think in 2016 or before that string inverter will be used in a utility scale project. No one ever think that string inverter rating will come to
Yes.
the 300 kilowatt or surpass that rating. In 2012, 11 kind of thing, 300 kilowatt, 500 kilowatt was central inverter rating. Nowadays, we add a 300 kilowatt is the string inverter rating, and central inverter rating has gone below 4 megawatt. So these are the optimization which at engineering work we are doing is considered as a technology upgradation, and which help us in a BOS optimization, higher generation, and of course an O&M point of view. So these three things come together, and as highlighted by Narendra sir, that the PPA rate has come down. So these all pressures are always helps a technology driven country to create that pressure in a positive manner, how technology can help us to achieve our target. So I have seen this trend, and in future also I'm very much optimistic that that this pressure will help us to accept a new trend and new technology. And I have seen as a manufacturer point of view in upcoming days, even string inverter has come up with a new technology, central inverter has come up with a new technology, modules
Yes.
are coming up with new technology to support the developer at an initial level. And these are the things which I've seen in a positive manner, and I'm very optimistic about this.
Great. So I hope all that new technology also comes at a good price, because the next issue we were going to raise was about financing, the availability of finance. We have seen even our government, even at the largest forums, raise this issue of financing, that the West has not really stepped up when it comes to supporting the developing economies with the right kind of funding that was promised. How do, Colonel Verma, how important is financing from a project perspective? The cost of financing, have you found getting access to it easier now? How do you see that changing going ahead for utility scale solar now?
See, without money, nothing happens. So let's be very clear about it. And this is not a charity, and neither this is a social that people will put up project just because of going green. Ultimately, it has to make money for the investor and for the asset owner and for the other stakeholders. So until as the whole ecosystem is profitable, it's not going to grow. Uh, Government can support with subsidies and policies to an extent, but there will be a point where government will not be able to do that. And I think the stage has come that government, we already seen SECI biddings, reverse biddings are now no more there. FIT is not there. So the industry has already been pushed into a direction that we need to be cost competitive. And but one thing is very clear. I think ever since the COVID has got over, we have been for the last 2 years, we have been hearing green, green everywhere. Every company, every corporate house, every country, every state is now talking of going
No.
carbon neutral, going green. And they are setting internal targets and declaring external targets to do that. So the demand is now becoming huge. Uh, some people are doing it for real reasons. Some people are doing it because they cannot be left out. And we have customers who supply to global chains, and it becomes mandatory for them to go green to remain as a supplier to those kind of global partners. So now it's become a business necessity, and the ESG requirements are increasing as we go along, and the funds are more and more getting connected to the ESG norms that the companies can follow. One thing is very sure, money is available in plenty. It's a question of the money chasing the right projects or the project chasing the right money. You know, Ultimately, it's a marriage between those two entities, which is there. Surely today we are looking at foreign money coming in. Even yesterday, I think in a webinar, the Prime Minister of India, Mr.
Yes,
Modi,
I was going to say
it
that.
was
Yeah.
addressed. It was addressing to the investors itself that
Right.
India
Completely.
it's a good bet that people can take, and why not? And very frankly, why not? See, money has no color. Whether the money comes from abroad or the money comes from India, India's own stuff, it's a money, and today money is exchangeable and fungible across this thing. What is more important is the money will only chase those projects if the projects are credible, reliable, and profitable. This is what is more important. Initially, my money might just kind of jump in to be given to some players because of some reasons. But as at the end of the day, if the assets don't perform, if the money is not paid back in time and the debt is not serviced, the investor confidence will die down. And I think as an industry, we need to be ethical about it. We need to be conscious of this particular fact and ensure that we build quality projects, and not only build projects which are of high quality, but also maintain them to ensure that the profitability of the investors' interests are taken care. I think once we get into that positive cycle,
Okay.
I don't think there is any concern on that particular part of it. That's what I would say.
Great. So, Subbu, in fact, I think since Colonel Verma mentioned Prime Minister Modi's speech 2 days back, I think, at the Green Growth webinar, he actually used the term gold mine for investors. And clearly, like he said, the pitch was completely to private investors. What do you think makes him feel so optimistic about it, that this is such a gold mine, opportunity wise, from a finance perspective?
And I mean, what is not there to think that it isn't a gold mine? If you look at it today, uh, as a country, our installations in solar grew 17 times in the last 7 years. That is the second largest in the world.
Sure.
Our pipeline capacity, like I said, sits at a very healthy 62 gigawatt, and we are growing economy. We will be a 5 trillion economy. We are from fifth, we might become third in terms of in the world in terms of the economics scale. So I think I don't think there's any other country where it is as attractive to invest in renewables as India today. Uh, we have, I mean, whenever I go on public forums, especially outside the country, the single largest distinction factor from our country compared to others is that we have, doesn't matter whichever government you see, state or central, whether it is the same party or different party, we don't debate whether climate change is real or not. All of us are working for
Sure.
increasing our installed capacity. That's number one. Number two, our regulatory and judiciary and quasi-judiciary framework that takes care of after installed capacity is very strong. It might be delayed but not denied for us. You have seen what happened for us in Andhra Pradesh case, in Haryana case. Okay. Now I'm fighting my Tamil Nadu case. So it might take us 2-3 years, but we still get the justice. So the investors' money is in the safe hands. So who would want to miss out on this thing? Last but not the least, like Vinayji said in the beginning, our rate of electricity demand increase, energy demand increase, has outperformed our forecast. Until 2020, it was underwhelming.
Yes.
Now we are overshooting. So today,
Absolutely.
when there is a demand, there is a resolve, there is a setup that takes care of you. I don't think there is any other country, barring 3 or 4 countries who already are above us in terms of installed capacity, where the field is so wide open. And rightly so, today India's renewable industry is 100% FDI. On an average, 70% of my new investments every year, which I track, come from outside of the country. They are both accessible, they are affordable, and with PLI and green hydrogen and electrolyzer and manufacturing, I see more influx of these funds coming from private equity, public equity, sovereign institutions, channelizing them to renewables only in India to begin with. This is your literally or figuratively the sunrise sector. Okay. So as Prime Minister said, we are literally sitting on a gold mine. We have huge scope, and utilities, I would still say, after 5, 6, 7 years, we will be out of land or something. You have rooftop, you have bi-PV, you have floating PV, you have agri-PV, you have, it's endless, the opportunities are. On the renewables other side, wind, you have offshore, wind sector is seeing a new renaissance, if I may use the term. So I think we are all on all the sides, contrary to the popular opinion, or we are always on the positive side of the things today than we were 5 years back or 10 years back or 7 years back. That itself is a good momentum. And I'm seeing huge influx of institutional investors in a queue to invest or acquire or merge or other parts of any possible things to get at least a small piece of India's market share. So
Okay.
I'm seeing companies which are coming and say, I want only 1 gigawatt by 2030. 1 gigawatt is fine, but I want 1 gigawatt in India. And the companies are saying, I want 5 gigawatt in India, I want 10 gigawatt, I want 20 gigawatt. So that is a result. You can't force them to come. So they're coming, that means they have see a value.
But Mr. Prasanna, I would like to just come in here.
Aniket,
I
have you
think we
seen
need to.
any client? Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Should I continue?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. I think while we're looking at the good part and the optimistic or the rosy part of the picture, we really need to also understand that the returns of investment will only come in if the customers pay you. And when I'm saying customers, I'm talking about both the C&I customers paying you and the government customers
Sure.
paying you. Because you'll have a PPA either with the government or
And
you'll have a
discounts.
PPA with another customer. Today, as we see it, and unfortunately, the situation is that becomes a big concern, especially when you look at the government sector. Wherever the tendering has happened, people have bid, they've built the projects, but many of those projects are not getting the cash for this energy supplied as they had wanted it in the PPA.
Yes.
And today, the Discom's health is, I think, a well-known element. And so, as a result, at the end of it, the investor's confidence gets shaken up. Though he knows it is guaranteed by the government because it's a government supply, you will get your money. But already now you know that the schemes have started coming in. Okay, if you want your money early, you take this much cut and then take the money. And so many things are there. Ultimately, this is all hitting the confidence and hitting the investments. On the C&I part, ultimately, even on a C&I sector, you need to depend on the discoms and the utilities and the grid companies to transport power to the utilities. And we know the challenge on the open access or regulatory front. While the intent of the government is very clear when it is the different rules and regulations that have come on open access, but in the reality on the ground, we know that most of the states have something or the other which they put it on the small print below, which makes it very difficult to actually make it a viable proposition to it. I think so. When I started this in the webinar initially, when I said I think it is when we reach a point that people will start panicking and there are no solutions to this is the time when probably these things, but it might become too late. My concern is only it might become too late. And that is something I think we need to be very conscious of doing this. We need to work
No,
at
I
both
agree. I
ends.
think we've been seeing this that, of course, yeah. The good part is whenever things have threatened to reach absolutely catastrophic proportions, somehow we found a way out every time. And
That's
I
right.
wouldn't say proactive, but I think the government, one good thing we have noticed sitting here in the media on the other side is that the government has been fairly responsive, if not proactive, in terms of trying to fix issues as they come along. And of course, the discom
Absolutely.
issue is a long-term issue, and it won't be. There's no quick fix, I guess, but they've really been at it. Aniket, have you
I
seen clients struggling to put up projects because of financing by any chance?
Because of
Or is
financing by
that
any chance? Honestly, I haven't seen that they are facing challenges because of the financing. Because as highlighted by Subbu sir, that there are the multiple ways and multiple opportunities through which they are getting the finance. But the major challenges which now when we had a discussion with the client, now this client is talking about NPV, that is net present value. Put it on terms that when whoever, for example, whoever developer are investing in the project, they are considering that if the plant value is 25, 30 years, so how much returns they are getting. So as the one of the crucial point mentioned by the Colonel sir at the beginning, that we have to be, while designing the plant or while designing whenever authority designs any project, we have to consider that we have to take the juice for from that plant over the 15 years, 20 years, or 25 years. So one thing is about the capex cost, that is the investment, and one thing is about the opex cost in the long term. When we talk the solar plant as an asset, because we are talking about the investment returns and profits, it's an asset for the country for 25 years, who is getting a generation over the years for to fulfill the inner requirement, and through the profit it may turn up as and contribute to the country in the returns. So we have to be consider very, we have to be designed, and we have to make a regulatory very strong from the OPEX point of view, where we get a huge amount of generation, and the investment which we are making should be a sustainable for 25 years. So it goes hand in hand.
Okay.
Whenever I had discussion with the customer, I understand their pain, especially about the developer customer I'm talking. Their pain is that if they are investing now, it should be a viable, and generation should be for a 25. Their concern from the O&M point of view. So all these factors are there where a developer is having some challenges, and as a manufacturer, we always try to support them with the good quality of the product, and try to be with them and to give them confidence that uh, whatever challenges they may face in O&M point of view, it will be get settled down. So these are the things from the supplier point of view which we take care, considering the plant value or asset value of 25 years, which is an important concern in an investment point of view.
Okay.
Yeah, Prasanna.
Okay. Great. So, you know what? So we will, for all the panelists, we'll take a 2 minute break here while we play a quick video for Goodwe. But post, so don't go anywhere. But post the break, we would love to talk about something that's very close to a lot of our hearts, which is, I think, especially the government, which is the jobs and the people issue in utility scale solar and otherwise. And of course, the impact of domestic manufacturing. So we'll just play the minutes and come back. Thank you.
Hello everyone, Namaste. Myself Divyang Patel from Seven Solar Energy based at Morbi, Gujarat. Seven Solar Energy is a company specializing in advanced technological ground mounted solar plant. We have recently completed Gujarat's first 2 megawatt captive solar plant in a solar policy of 2021. We have developed single axis tracker structure with a bifacial module of 495 watt peak capacity, and we have used 8 pieces of Goodwe inverters of 250 kilowatt, which is first time in a Gujarat in our project. We have used power line communication system for data monitoring of the project, and along with the PID recovery features, which is highly robust technology in Goodwe inverters. We are very satisfied with the newly launched product of Goodwe inverters, which we have used in our plant, and hats off to the service team. We didn't face any issue along with the project. The Goodwe inverters which we have used in our project are the only inverters which are best for bifacial facility gain sustainability and peak performance generation. The plant is able to achieve 8,500 units per day per megawatt. As a technical aspect, the DC to AC ratio is 1:1 for our project. I wish entire India team of the Goodwe all the best. Thank you.
Hi, I'm technical support engineer in Goodwe, India. Today we are at 7 solar plant where the plant capacity is 2 megawatt with single access tracker system. We have used 8 number of 250 kilowatt inverter. This 250 kilowatt inverter has been designed for utility scale and with the help of features like PLCC, NTPID, AFCI and high current per MPPT.
Welcome back. So now I think we can move on to the issue that really is fairly close to a lot of us, which is the people issue actually. You'll be surprised to know that even in media, even hiring people to write about solar and renewable energy is no longer an easy thing. It's a significant challenge for us. So I don't know how you find your people to do the actual work. So Colonel Verma, I'm going to start with you here. Of course, one of the reasons I think solar has also become more attractive is also the jobs it creates, what we call clean energy jobs. And that's right across the value chain today. And now in India, we have seen the government move even towards manufacturing, right? We've been pushing for that. How are you finding that? Is it easy to find people today? Do you foresee this remaining an easy process, or is it going to get tougher? And what could be done to build up a nice, strong cohort of trained professionals in India who really understand renewable energy and can execute well? Because we've seen worldwide that problems are cropping up now, including your early area, which is wind energy, whether it is accidents or other issues. So I think training and the rest of it is extremely essential now. So please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Prasanna. I think this is a very, very important point because the projects will only see the light of the day if they're executed. And to execute, you need people. People have always been a biggest challenge, not only for solar, but most of the industries, especially renewable energy, because it's a people-intensive job. And solar is surely a very labor-intensive job. The amount of labor that's required for the activities that are required, where thousands of piles and thousands of panels are required to be installed in a short period of time. Because solar projects typically are short gestation projects. They are not unlike a wind project, which might take probably a year to develop. The solar projects get started and finished within a couple of months. The requirement of having trained manpower, I think, is something that all of us face. And today, I am not aware of any institute as such or any organization as such which is providing training on a large scale. I've heard about a lot of small organizations which are providing vocational training or skill development of people, but as an industry, I'm yet to come across a standard certified kind of agency. I think what is required to be done surely is that the industry and the government, I think that effort is already started with the skill, with the directorates within the ministry, different ministries, the labor ministry there, where they have started a skilling partnership with the industry to provide certification of the skills. So like an ITI fitter comes in. I remember we doing that when we were in Suzlon, where people used to come in there and then we used to train them as per a curriculum and get certified. I think we need to start something like this in solar also. While we're talking about skills at the working level, which is at the labor level and the technician level, we also have to develop better skills on project management level, on the overall project planning, estimations, sourcing, procurement. It's a huge ecosystem that works to get the project completed. Already, I think the talk we have been hearing, the government also talking, and even the academicians talking about that. While we have a lot of engineers and we have a lot of technical students or children who pass out, but the employability is something which has been a major concern. They have a degree, but they don't know really to do anything. I think we, as a society, we need to move into the skill development at an early age, and the ITI systems which were there once upon a time, where we're feeding good technically trained technical manpower to the industries, the manufacturing industries. I think a similar model needs to be adopted even for the solar and the wind or the renewable energy, where we partner up and sponsor or adopt these institutes, train these young children into the necessary skills which are required, catch them young, and let them move up the ladder as they improve the skills on the job. I think that is something we will really have to do across the nation, both from a nationwide perspective and an industry-wide perspective. And it's not a very difficult thing to do, very, very frankly. It's just getting people together and making it happen. That is what I would say.
Great. So spoken like a real army man. I think that's a very challenging task, but you make it sound very, very doable. So that's good to know. Subbu, in all your coordination with the government, has the people issue been an issue at all? Do you talk about that? Is there stuff being planned?
Yeah, well, definitely. That is one of the key issues that we always discuss. And
Okay.
there are some initiatives that the ministry has taken up. Some of them we have taken up. Some of them are going to get launched in a couple of months from now. You are aware, Skill Call for Green Jobs already has a Surya Mitra program. 50 odd thousand people have already been trained in that. Then they have also come up with a specific package based on industry demand. We have garnered the demand of particular skills that are required in utility scale plants, rooftop plants and all. And new courses were developed. These are more or less certification courses which will help people to learn and then get certified and they can join the workforce. Uh, I have also observed, and at NSCFI, we are a member-driven body, and our feedback naturally comes from ground, from the members' issues. So we have seen that there is huge gap in terms of the expected skill set and the skill set that is available from the candidates in the market today. To address that, we have now we are in very advanced stages of talks. So next month on 3rd, we are signing the intent agreement to set up a center of excellence for this training and skill development. This is for both solar and wind. We are yet to finalize one location from two or three that are available. But this will be like a curriculum that will be developed by the industry, which they think is necessary for people to be equipped. And the training courses will range from 30 days to 90 days or 180 days. Uh, on the other hand, we are also trying to build capacity for manufacturing also. Today, if you look at it, PLI 1, PLI 2 are going to add huge manufacturing jobs in the next 3 to 4 years. The upstream ones have more potential than the existing downstream ones. So PLI 1 and 2 both have a lot of upstream vertical integration things. So we believe there is a necessity for that. So we that is going to be one of the key areas we are going to focus on. But the human resource problem is more an opportunity than a crisis, I would say. We are a very young nation. We have huge growth demand projected for solar, which is in consonance with the population whose employability demand is also raising. So I think we have really a very good opportunity there. I still believe the way the training should happen should be more decentralized. Like you will have 7 or 10 hubs in the country which will be training people rather than having one in the center. And they should be trained at a place which is in a very strategic location where you have a lot of renewable energy plants or prospective plants coming up. Like what we are trying to do, we are targeting the Andhra Karnataka border. In that radius of 150 kilometers, you have 5 gigawatt of renewable energy existing, and another 4.5 coming up. So if you train people there, they will be able to get employed in 9.5 gigawatt in the next 2 3 years. So I think these are the strategic places that we are trying to do. Same thing goes with Rajasthan, the Jaisalmer part below, and then the Gujarat above parts also. So I think this is how we are looking at. Another interesting thing I should say here. A couple of days from now, German Chancellor is visiting our country. One of the key discussions that is going to take place is also on the exchange of skilled workers. We are, as part of our German collaboration, uh, we are trying to facilitate the skilled workers who can join the German solar installation workforce, because their demand is around 5,000 per year steadily until 2030 and they need more.
Wow.
So on one hand, you might say my country has very few limited people, but when you're able to train them, our installers and our technicians are going to install in Germany, which, if you ask me, their standards for installation are very high. And once they are there and come back, they'll be of a huge resource for us, for my industry. So I think, like I said, this is more an opportunity, and I would say 4 or 5 years down the lane, we'll be talking again and we'll be celebrating the progress that we have achieved.
Okay. No, that's great to hear. Actually, that's capacity building at another level altogether. One of the things, looking at again the Indian market for utility scale, what we've seen is, because so far the focus was on utility scale mostly from the government. Nobody questioned a lot of things like, we had a small manufacturing base, which is now, like you said, thanks to the PLI schemes being ramped up massively. But in terms of policy, we have seen a lot of changes over the last 5 years, forget 10 years, right? From safeguard duty to BCD coming in, then the ALMM requirements coming in. Do you think that really helps in terms of helping companies plan for the future, plan projects better? And forget, I mean, I know we will all have a lot of issues with that, but going ahead for the next 10 years, what sort of policy, stability, or consistency would you hope or look forward to that you believe would really help the utility scale part of the solar industry to grow consistently and deliver on those significant numbers that we've spoken about? Colonel Verma, you've been there, you've seen it. Tell us, what's the ideal situation here now? How do we get out of this constant policy tinkering?
See, I think at the outset, I would say that anytime a policy is rolled out, it has probably good reasons to roll out at that particular point of time. I'm sure no policy gets rolled out with an intent to probably thwart the growth, because ultimately the intent of the government and all the stakeholders is to improve. But unfortunately, what happens is the policies, some of the policies, when they get rolled out, probably don't look at it from a 360-degree viewpoint of view, maybe trying to solve a particular problem which might be creating a bigger problem elsewhere. I would say, I think today probably we are driving a Ferrari with the handbrake on. And in case we want to reach the targets that what we are looking at, we cannot afford to have a handbrake on or a tire which is punctured. Today, we know we don't have domestic. For simple example, panel supply itself, the supply part of it. We know we don't have enough domestic manufacturing capability. I don't see any rationale or a logic to thwart the supply side of the system, because moment you don't even allow the panels to be available to people which are of affordable and the quality that you need for, how are the projects going to get covered? So what ultimately we want to do? The intent surely is to improve your domestic manufacturing. We have absolutely no industrialist or nobody in this sector has any qualms with that or any problems with that. And we would like the domestic manufacturing to improve. But what is the situation today? We don't have enough domestic manufacturing. If you are looking at 20-25 gigawatt per year and installations that are needed to even meet our 2030 targets, we need about 25 gigawatt of panels, and our domestic manufacturing today is, I think, just about 10 gigawatt, if I'm not wrong. And some of the big manufacturers are either having a captive consumption of those panels or they're exporting those panels. So they're not really available to the domestic, the other product developers in India. I think what I would suggest, and that's not my wish or desire, I think that is the need of the day, is now to pull out all the plugs, at least for next couple of years, and ensure that our projects pick up the pace that are necessary, build up the necessary inertia and the critical mass to become self-reliant, while in the meanwhile the domestic capability gets built up and plugs into this whole flywheel system, which is now probably running on its own, I would say. And then I think the center, state, the discoms and the open access policies and the regulatory stuff, I think those things also really need to be ironed out by the governments. Land reforms are surely a big area where we really need to work on. How to ensure that the permits come in time, how to ensure that they come in the time frame that are necessary to develop those projects. What is the point of my getting an NA, non-agricultural conversion of a land 3 years down the line when my project actually takes only 4 months to deliver? So these are the things I think the different wings of the government have to really apply themselves towards a common cause and the common target as a nation that what we have picked up is my view on this.
But have you seen an improvement?
Yeah.
Have you seen an improvement in the last 2 years? We've seen the government at least seemingly make a lot of efforts. Have you seen a change there?
Surely, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. See, that the tone and tenor is surely on the positive direction. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Maybe it's a matter of time when the benefits or the intent which was behind that particular policy or a rule goes to the last point where it is needed to be going. And the industry has to face all the people in the supply chain or the value chain, and everybody needs to be aligned to the overall vision and the objective of the nation. I think it's going to take time. That time is the delay that's happening is what we are seeing the effect on the industry growth today. But I think the faster we do it, and that is where I think we will need a very aligned policy framework by all the segments, whether it is the state or it is the state governments or the central government, the different ministries that are getting involved in it, and the regulatory bodies that are getting involved in it, and the various government departments like transmission and the utilities, discoms, which are getting part of it. I think the overall framework has to get aligned better. Otherwise, we will probably trying to push in one corner and plug it in the other corner, and ultimately the industry suffers. And the next couple of years I feel are extremely important, because this is, today I can say, a bullish phase on investment. Today everybody is looking at India as an investment
Yes.
hub, and in case we don't deliver on what we are trying to talk, just because of the ease of doing business or the unease of doing business, I think the attention of the investors will move away to other markets which might probably be doing a better job than what we are doing.
Sure. Subbu, before you answer to this question, we heard about the 2-year extension to ALMM for some projects, though we haven't got a formal notification yet. Something very specific. How long do you think will Indian industry need BCD? And then you can answer now. Tell me.
I mean, you're asking me how long do we need BCD?
Yeah. What do you predict? I'm just asking you to make a prediction. How long do you think we need it?
I mean, see, here there are two ways of looking at it, and I won't definitely answer your question directly. But why do we need more domestic manufacturing? Because you need to reduce your dependence, you need to become more energy independent. This is good for your energy security.
Sure.
And as a country, it is our duty to produce and consume, not import and consume. So anything that is required to promote domestic manufacturing, we have to do. That is it. Period. On the other hand, you need to align yourself and your installations or your growth with your targets and your ambitious timelines to ensure that you are fighting with full might against the harmful effects of climate change and adding capacity as per what we are supposed to do. There's an entire industry that is being there. That is on the second side of the coin. So to balance both, I would say there have been a lot of discussions in the ministry. I cannot disclose most of them. There are two pros and cons and all.
Sure.
The very intent of BCD, to now come to your question, was to ensure that you have a trade barrier for import. And once the domestic manufacturing becomes, the capacity is installed and they become competitive, then I don't think even if you have 0% BCD or 100% BCD, anyone will even prefer importing. In terms of timeline, I cannot say that, because there are lots of ifs and buts and all. I saw China is considering to ban the export of the technology and equipment.
Yes.
I am now battling, and in fact, I'm fighting a huge battle as part of the India-EU FTA to exempt the import of the duty on the import of machinery and technology from Europe. And I want Europe to waive off duty on my modules if I export. So that's another battle I'm fighting there. So as a body which has both manufacturers and developers, I think we should let the market take its own course. We can sit and make all our predictions and all, but when the market forces come into place, I don't think you do it. And I'll tell you very frankly, even if, let's say, there is a point of time where BCD exists, and if there's a demand of the particular type of technology that is not available in India, then people will pay 100% BCD and import. But if that is there, they won't. So I think safer to say, after my PLI2 module comes, the end-to-end module comes into the market, that would be a safer bet to say that I am now okay without duty. But my PLI2, if it concludes on 28th and the results are out in April, then my first module from PLI2 will start in the PWCM, polywafer cell module will start in April 2026.
Yes.
That's 3 years. So a lot of things can go wrong.
Yeah.
But
I agree. I think what we're seeing is 2023, for example, looks like a very challenging year, simply because everything is finally having an impact, whether it's BCD or ALMM or the rest of it. I think the only thing which has kind of given us enough reason to defend this whole BCD argument and the rest of it is the fact that your biggest markets in the world, whether it's the US or Europe, they've also come up with probably, I think, the largest ever measures ever seen when it comes to trying to revive or protect an industry. So nobody's going to come after us to say, look, well, like I remember when we had the safeguard duty, there was so much pressure that you reduce it further. Otherwise, you'll be hauled up at the WTO. So I guess the world has changed in that sense. and
No,
what
no,
you say makes sense from the
and not just
energy
not
security
just
aspect.
the whole person. I would say no single person in the industry is against BCD, and this is known factor. No one has opposed
Can't
BCD
be.
whatsoever.
Absolutely.
They cannot be,
Yeah.
and we are not. What they have concerns is on the projects that were built before BCD came into place. That is the
I know
BCD
this bridge
grandfathered.
period between BCD and yeah, yeah,
Those projects,
I
that
agree.
issue is there. We are fighting with finance ministry and all. Now, to quickly answer your actual question on what do we
Right.
require for the next 5 6 years, I think we need just three C's. We need clarity, we need certainty, we need comprehensiveness. We need clarity on when what will come in what function and how it will come. We need certainty on when something is coming today, then how certain we are that it will last for the time that you promise us. We need comprehensiveness in the way that, okay, if you're talking about part A of the entire equation, then part B, part C, part D, even if you don't want to talk today, tell me that, okay, I will talk about part B after 4 years, part C after 10 years, and part D after 15 years. And I'm telling you, no government, we track, we are part of Global Solar Council, we track 38 countries with active solar policies. No
Sure.
government can have all of the things figured out on day one. I should
Absolutely.
commend and appreciate ministry, and of course they should thank us also, that when we are giving inputs and when they are asking us inputs, we are trying to be as comprehensive as possible. For a country like India to come from 1 gigawatt or 2 gigawatt to 62 gigawatt with all these policy cobblers around us is something that you cannot think of. But whatever we have done, we can pat ourselves on back, but what we should do should be better than what we have done. So these three C's are, in my opinion, are needed. Once they are there, like I said, every crisis is an opportunity. Today we are talking about a looming crisis that can come, but within one single stroke of a pen, everything becomes an opportunity. So we are all prepared. The optimism is at its peak. The intensity at which things are going on is also at its peak. I am tracking 62,000 megawatt of projects sitting here every day on how they are getting commissioned. Last year we commissioned 13,000 megawatt. My minimum projection for last year was 11. My maximum was 18. We were around 13. That's huge. This year my minimum is 17. My maximum is 24. If we end up between these figures, this is going to be the highest, largest year in terms of installed capacity. I'm talking about solar. Leave wind and all, which are also getting added in the equal quantum. So
Wow.
there is no doubt in that.
Wow. Those are really, really huge numbers. Colonel Verma, would you agree? I mean, would you share that optimism? 17 to 24 range for 2023 gigawatts?
No, I think Subbu has all the market intelligence. He collects data. His numbers must be right, I would say. But surely,
Okay.
ever since the BCD has come in, I haven't seen it. Though Subbu saying nobody is complaining, but I haven't seen anybody saying good things about BCD from the developer perspective. We all have been surely badly hit, and it may be okay for the government, for people who are in the utility scale with the government biddings, because they have a provision in their PPAs to pass through the BCD on the PPA, which is not the case with the C&I people like CleanMax,
Sure.
because our contracts don't allow that to happen. And secondly, our entire business case is depending on the delta between what we provide them and what they're taking from the grid. And surely the BCD is not something we'll be able to fully pass through to them. So it's really not a good sign for people like us. And I think government, when they make the policies, though in the new policies, open access is actually for the C&I sector, no doubt about it. At least the government is showing and recognizing that this is going to become one of the biggest sector to grow. But then BCD is something which is hitting us absolutely very badly. Yeah. I think government need to really look at it, and if required, exempt the BCD, at least the C&I sector, and provide some relief to them, because we are exposed to more market dynamics than what probably the other ones are, I would say.
Okay.
And
I'm
I
sure
agree.
something might come in there.
My answer's perspective was from utility, because our panel discussion today was on utility. But for C&I sector,
Mhm.
that is very affected. For BCD, ALMM, they are the, I would generally not prefer using this term, but they are the unintentional casualty of all of the policy decisions that have been taken in the last 2 years. C&I segment was the most hit segment, I should say. In fact,
But that is the
I
growth sector, Subbu. That is the growth sector, actually. If you really ask me
Right. In
today,
fact, that's what I was going to ask you.
most of the
that is
IPPs have now stopped bidding and now getting into C&I
Right.
sector. And
Yes.
what is the best thing to do for government to move out of the space and let the producer and the seller talk to each other and sell? Ultimately, it's the user is supposed to take the power, whether he takes it from the government or he takes it directly.
In fact, when the BCD and ALMM were issued, and this is a public document, you can see it. We are the one of the first or the only ones to request for BCD grandfathering on C&I projects also. We wanted C&I projects also to be exempted. And of course, from day one till today, we are fully against ALMM applicability on C&I. Last but not the least, and on Tuesday this week, there was a C&I meeting in the meeting that was convened, the stakeholders were convened. I gave a written projection to the ministry saying from 2025 onwards, my year-on-year installations will have more installed capacity from C&I than utility. 2025 is not so far away.
Yeah.
We are transitioning from a government-driven, tender-driven demand to a market-driven demand. So market forces will take their course, and the best thing for the government to do is just take a step back and sip a cup of tea and leave things to us. You have done enough. Green open access is there. Everything is there. You exempt us from ALMM for 2-3 years and exempt us from grandfather BCD for us in C&I. You will see growing. I personally predict C&I installed capacity year on year touching the range of 15 to 18 gigawatt from 2027-2028. It took us 17 years to come there. 7 years to come to that figure for utility, from 1 gigawatt to 18 gigawatt. For C&I, it will take only 4 or 5 years. That is a market demand. So I fully agree with Colonel.
No, I'm glad you said that, Subbu. In fact, you took away my next question because I was going to say that would it be fair to say that we've been very obsessed with utility scale solar in India for a while at the cost of CNI and rooftop solar? Because I looked at the numbers for China last year, for example, and their rooftop solar has actually done far higher numbers than CNI than utility to change. Because you keep saying CNI became an inadvertent casualty of some policy. Was even right now I think for the next 2 years, everybody understands that there is going to be a little bit of a tightrope walk between managing domestic supplies and otherwise at a much higher cost. How would that change? Because that problem seems to be going right back to our DISCOM level. How do you manage that? Do you see that happening in any way?
No, I think Prasanna here, as a country, when we started the journey of solar proliferation, it was a very maybe a very cautious or a
It
very
had to get government backing.
Thoughtful decision that the initial focus and initial impetus was only on utility, not on manufacturing, not on C&I, not on rooftop. So that I won't say that was wrong. But what you asked and you put it very rightly, and what we have also been trying to make a point, China's rooftop example, that is a different story. I don't want to get into that. It has more fine print there to read rather than to just look at the entire installed capacity of rooftop last year. But I have my own analysis from my members that our rooftop potential, even if I capture less than 5% residential rooftop, I will cross 300 gigawatt. 300 gigawatt is my rooftop potential. And I'm not even touching ministry's data of 720 or 1840 gigawatts of potential on rooftop. C&I is much more. So the number of meetings, policies, documents that come out of ministry, if you see the proportion, it was utility more. Now slowly manufacturing is taking a pie, and I am seeing a trend where C&I and residential rooftop are taking a pie. But there is a counter argument for it. The sectors of C&I and rooftop or residential ones technically don't need any intervention from any government. The only thing we need from them is for them to not actively stop, which many state governments are doing. I have a list of 17 states where there is at least minimum 4 or 5 issues related to C&I or residential rooftop. We are tracking it. I am fighting 54 cases today in regulatory commissions, in high courts, in Supreme Court on C&I and rooftop only. My utility cases, I don't want to mention the figure or how much we spend every year on fighting those cases.
I
So
know.
these are main states, the incentive, the initiative that the states take to stop this proliferation is what is affecting us. Other than that, I don't think there's any policy gap. There's no technical gap. There is nothing. Everything is proper. And when we meet the minister, when we met the minister, we said there's only one problem: discom, 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 discom. You make discom sit with us.
Absolutely.
We'll work a win-win-win formula. A developer will get win, the consumer will get win. Let discom also want to take 1 rupee, take 1.5 rupee also can take. I'm okay. The consumer also will be okay. He's paying 8 rupees. I'm selling you 3 or 4 rupees. He's saying 4. So let him give 1 rupee or 2 rupees there. And it's just a broader one. Don't take my words on it. We made a very big detailed presentation after consulting.
Sure.
Our members represent 95% of the C&I market, right? There's no one who's virtually not our member who's part of this ecosystem. So we said, let us work out a win-win formula. Let us go and sit with the regulators and forum of regulators. Our long-standing demand, and there's only one solution, and I'm very sorry to say it will not happen until this happens. And this also cannot happen. Maybe I am very utopian to say this. The moment you have a body like GST Council for electricity, all of my issues, you and I, we don't even need to sit and discuss in public platform. Every month, every quarter, the council meets. They will adopt a formula or a definition. Today, 4 states in the country out of 29 define captive or open access differently than the remaining 25 states. We are all reading the same language. All of us have the same rules. Electricity rules and all are formulated by the same government. So these interpretations are only being done because they have something else to do. No, so that is something that we strongly believe, and you will not believe this fight is a fight that you have to take to states and local people. It gets more intense there, it gets more difficult there, but many companies are still trying to fight, and despite these impediments, they are trying to implement. And out of our total installed capacity of distributed or rooftop, 80% of the chunk is coming from C&I. That's a huge, I would say, achievement of our sector. So that is what I would think.
Great. So, Colonel Verma, one last question for you now. Subbu spoke about even a possible change in the contract structure in terms of the long-term PPAs, I believe. And correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe we're talking about shorter contracts, a lot more trade exchanges, merchant power. When do you think a company like yours, you already are more than a gigawatt in terms of installations, when would you actually consider taking when do you imagine you could take that punt to say, look, let's go and set up this 250 megawatt project on our own, and we'll find the buyers by the time we're done with this? When do you think that could happen, or is it already happening?
So, Prasanna, I think we are already there, most of it. At least in CleanMax, I can say with good amount of confidence that we launch projects while we still don't have the 100% capacity sold off. But surely from a long-term and a short-term perspective, we as a company, as a policy, have generally been preferring a longer-term commitment instead of a shorter-term commitment. But depending on the market need, we are very flexible. So it isn't that we insist on an X particular way. We do hedge ourselves, and we do ensure that we are able to customize our solutions to meet the different types of customers. So should a customer require a medium-term access or a short-term access, we are also open to doing that. So we have a mix. We have a mix of short-term, long-term, captive, group captive, solar alone, wind alone, hybrid. So we have almost every particular configuration of the PPAs and the hardware, the assets behind it is what CleanMax offers to our customers, and that probably gives us a good competitive advantage in the market. There are companies I'm aware of who only do short term. There are advantages and disadvantages of short term and long term, to be very frank. And I'm sure as the markets open up, as the carbon trading and the green attributes and all this becomes more matured, becomes more accessible, the overall ecosystems improve, I'm sure this whole dynamics will also improve upon it, and every organization will take the approach that's probably best suited to its long-term strategies, I would say.
Great. Aniket, any last words on how your target could change? Do you see you targeting a bigger share from utility scale, or is CNI becoming very exciting for you, expanding much faster? Because your company entered utility scale very late, I guess, with its offerings.
You're on mute, Aniket.
Aniket, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, we started very, very late. Initially, we were targeting only residential and CNI segment, and from 2020 onwards, we had come up with the product rating. So, as a manufacturer, as I see in the beginning that Indian market, I'm looking out for very positive manner, whether it's a CNI or utility. As highlighted by the Colonel sir, there are the few challenges, but same time, Subbu sir had given confidence and had shared his thought that how that challenges will be get balanced in upcoming days. So, as a manufacturer, I'm seeing opportunity in both segment, whether it's a CNI or residential, because as a Goodwe, we had a product from 1 kilowatt to 250 kilowatt, that is from a residential segment product of 1 kilowatt to utility scale. So I'm open for all the opportunities which is coming from the different, whether it is CNI, residential, rooftop or ground mounted. So for me it's an ocean of opportunity, and we are also coming up with our factory in quarter 2. So there is no looking back for us, and in upcoming days we are looking forward to scale our business to next level.
Fantastic. That's good to hear again. So ending on that note. So I think we're all agreed that there are more reasons to be optimistic than worry about the long-term trajectory of utility scale, for no other reason than the fact that I think Subbu almost said it in so many words that there is no other option. Everybody acknowledges today that there is a real crisis on the horizon or already here, depending on your perspective, and everybody realizes that at state level, hopefully, and even at the central level, and at a global level, of course. So support will come in, policies will be adapted to keep fixing things as we go along. But hopefully, we might even see an acceleration in terms of overall installs in India, rather than just looking at that one target and hoping to get there, or somehow getting there at the last second. I hope I have kind of captured that part right in terms of the sentiment here. So thanks a lot. Thank you everybody for your time. It was really a pleasure hosting you. Subbu, thanks for coming in at short notice because Vinay had something which came up. And Colonel Verma, as always, brilliant to have you here. We haven't done this before with you, but it was really great having you. Aniket, thank you for your
Thank you.
inputs, and thanks to Goodwe
Thank
for your
you.
support again. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you,
And for
Prasanna,
everybody,
and thank
Thank
you,
you. Thank you,
Subbu and
sir.
Aniket. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you,
And thanks
thanks
to
so
the
Prasanna.
much.
audience.
Thank you. Yes, great thanks to the audience.